Daddy broke that to me. And the first thing I said to him, Daddy, was it because I'm a girl? And he said, Trudy, babe, no way. No, you're just too young right now to have that responsibility in second grade. And he said, let me tell you something. Don't believe anything people say that is going to make you feel less than. You can do everything as well or better than boys can do. Your age should not be a factor in what performance you would give or how you would handle a difficult situation. So don't allow anyone to say you can't do something, because you've proven just by the fact that you're here that you can beat the odds.
Right, right, right.
And
Beautiful.
coming from your daddy
Yes,
is, I mean, the world just opens up. It's
yes.
like, wow, he really sees me. He knows me. And that was one of those moving periods in my life.
That was very moving.
You're like a breath of fresh air, softly blowing spring through your hair. Sunlight in the sky on your face, bringing joy and love to this place. Bring joy and love to this place in my heart. You bring joy and love to this place in my heart. You bring joy and love to this place in my heart. You bring joy and love to this place in my heart.
Hello, I'm Carol B. Brown Jones, and welcome to GG United by Love, our home for practicing love in actions. That's with the S on the end. By choosing love in every action. GG stands for grandmothers and their girls, and that includes daughters, daughter in laws, granddaughters, grandsons too, your family and your friends. If you're here, you belong here, and you are welcome. This is where we gather to share stories, wisdom, and reflections about life, love, and legacy across generations. If this speaks to your heart, I invite you to subscribe here on Substack and stay connected with our community. I am glad you're here. Well, today I have a very special guest, and I am now identifying as an elder guide, which we are the ones who are helping our young people find their way. And today you're going to meet one of the beautiful elder guides that has an inspirational story that I want all our young girls and boys to hear and learn and purchase her book. I have Dr. Trudi M. Morrison, and she is a trailblazing attorney, the former senior officer who served under President Ronald Reagan, and the only person in any race or gender to serve in the senior roles across all three branches of the U.S. government. Her new memoir, Winning the Battle Against Myself, A Black Woman's Journey Through America's Corridors of Power. It was released last May 2025, and it offers a rare firsthand look of life and leadership in Washington, D.C. She was born and raised in Colorado. She tells her story in our interview, information you won't get in the book about her family, her grandparents, her parents, and how she overcame obstacles from the day she was born to be the powerful woman she is today. Dr. Trudy's story blends personal resilience with political insight, tracing her journey from the young child a girl growing up in the 1950s segregated Denver to a respected leader in the nation's capital. She shares her candid reflections on systematic racism, navigating high stakes environments, and the quiet strength required to lead with integrity. You are going to enjoy this interview, and I do highly encourage you that you purchase the book and share her stories with others. And do pass this video, this one around. And I purposely am sharing this on MLK Day because her story is all about the government, the struggle for our independence. And she represents someone, the way that continue the struggle and the continuing the efforts to overcome. I do encourage you to subscribe and share and be with us on the Tuesday talk the day after this presentation, as I have another beautiful, insightful person to share with you. You'll get more of that on the end of this video, so make sure you don't turn it off too soon. So welcome, Dr. Trudi. Can I call you Dr. Trudi?
You could call me Trudi.
Okay, thank you, Trudi. Tell them a little bit about you, where you grew up and your childhood.
Okay. Well, my name is Trudi Michelle Morrison. I grew up in Denver, Colorado. And I came from basically a renowned family. My grandfather was a very well-known musician. In fact, he ended up with the name coined Denver's Mr. Jazz or Mr. Music. I can't remember exactly, but I think it was Mr. Music. And he was able to put a band together, and the band was so outstanding, they got an invitation to go to Europe. And while there, they played a command performance for the King and Queen of England. I mean, think about this. We're talking about the 1920s,
Mm,
and a Black man in America who was invited over to England to the royal family to give a performance. I mean, that was totally unheard of.
right.
At that point in time, he was the first Black recording musician for Columbia Records.
What's your
And when he,
grandfather's name?
George Morrison Sr.,
George Morrison Sr. Okay.
right? And we called him Big Daddy. But anyway, he was the first Black American to get a recording contract with Columbia Records. And when he came back from England after that huge success, the Victor phonograph company wanted him to come over and be a part of their organization. Well, Columbia said, no way, you're under contract to us, so you have to stay with us. So my grandfather recommended what he would, how he would say it, a white fella whose father had been his music teacher at one point, and the father's name was Wilberforce Whiteman, and his son, who was Big Daddy's friend, his name was Paul Whiteman. Paul Whiteman became a famous jazz band director, and his fame transcended the United States. It became international.
Mm,
And people started calling Big Daddy, my grandfather, the um the white, no, they were calling him the Black Paul Whiteman.
Mm.
Now, I hope I didn't confuse that too much, but the bottom line is he couldn't go over to the recording company he wanted, which was Victor Photographic Company, because he had a contract with Columbia.
Right.
And even with that, he recommended his violin teacher's son by the name of Paul Whiteman.
Mm-hmm.
And Paul Whiteman became so famous, they started calling my grandfather the Black Paul Whiteman. And
Mm-hmm.
there's some irony in there, Karol, because I mean, look at the last name, White Man.
Yeah, right.
But I won't even get into all that. But this is basically the family I grew up in. And Denver was so segregated at that point in time that any notable Black artist had to stay at my grandparents' home because all the downtown hotels were segregated.
Mm-hmm.
So we grew up getting to see Nat King Cole, Duke Ellington, Count Basie, U.B. Blake, Jelly Roll Martin, William Bojangles Robinson, and those are just some of the people off the top of my head that we got to meet. And of course, my sister and I were so little, but we do remember certain things. One that stands out in my mind immediately was Nat King Cole. And Big Daddy just called him, Nat
Mm-hmm.
Cole. His voice was so soft that from the dining room table to the living room, which wasn't that much space in my grandparents' home, but you couldn't even hear Nat Cole sing. So his voice was heavily amplified
Mm.
through all of his records. But the racism really did take its toll um, in the 20s. Everyone who was in a responsible position, elected or non-elected, they were members of the Ku Klux Klan.
Mm.
And they resented my grandfather for building a little bungalow in an area that was predominantly white at that point in time. And they resented all of the Black stars coming to his home as well. They burned his house down 3 times,
My
and
goodness.
and trying to rebuild it when you have the construction department headed by the Klan. The Mayor Stapleton, was the head of the Ku Klux Klan.
Mm.
The fire department, wherever you went in leadership roles, they were members of the Klan. But Big Daddy never gave up. His neighbors, when the Klan burned a cross on their front yard, neighbors came to help put it out with shovels and dirt. So it really was a community effort to save my grandparents' home.
Right.
But it didn't deter Big Daddy at all. And what's a very important note I don't want to forget, in his band, he had a jazz singer. The jazz singer was my Aunt Hattie, who is known as Hattie McDaniel,
Oh my gosh.
the first Black woman to win an Oscar for Gone with the Wind.
Yes.
So our world is small. It's smaller than we think.
Mm-hmm.
But we stand on so many people's shoulders and so many Black women's shoulders. And most people didn't even know Aunt Hattie could sing.
Oh, really?
And let alone that she was in a band, but that's how she got her start in my grandparents um in Big Daddy's band. In fact, um I'll get to it later, but I wrote a book and I have a picture in my book of my grandfather on the violin, his daughter, my aunt, on the piano. Aunt Hattie is sitting down in a Queen Anne chair, and my grandmother, Big Mommy, is standing behind Aunt Hattie. Um, and my grandmother and Aunt Hattie were the only two Black people at their elementary school here in Denver, Colorado. So they were just totally inseparable, best
Mm,
friends. So
yeah.
that's kind of a quick note about the senior parts of the family.
And
Um,
that's important because like you said, standing on those shoulders. That was,
Unbelievable.
yeah, they raised, is that your father's father or your mother's father?
That's my father's father.
Okay, so yeah, that's
Yeah,
strong.
right.
Beautiful.
And my father is was an educator in Denver public schools. He truly believed in the talent of the teachers and of the students in a public school environment. In fact, Daddy ended up becoming the principal of 3 elementary schools, um, one ju- junior high school, and the junior high school was Cole, Cole, and of a high school, Manual High School. I'm sorry, I have a brand new puppy that is showing his oats and doesn't like me taking a second away from him, from
I don't,
her
I
rather.
don't, I don't hear her, but if you need to pause, we can pause at any
Oh,
time.
the pausing won't help with her. But Daddy ended up being the principal of the schools he had attended.
Oh,
So that was amazing. And along with Big Daddy, um, Daddy George Morrison Jr. played in our church every Sunday for over 60 years. Our
wow.
church was Shorter AME Church.
Mm-hmm.
My mother, Marjorie Briggs Morrison, was the first Black appointee in the city and county of Denver.
Mm,
And she served as the executive secretary, meaning the head secretary, to 8 Denver mayors.
wow.
One chief of, I can't remember the exact title, but a Black man was the first one to get the job where Mommy served as secretary. His name was Elvin Caldwell, and it was really the chief overall law enforcement in Denver. So that gives you an idea of my grandfather and grandmother on my dad's side and my parents. Now, a quick note too. Mommy's mother's name was Cora Briggs, and she was a cook. And once I get in my book, I talk about, and I have a picture of her working at a nursing home called Charmwood, where she was the chief cook, and she's standing on a table surrounded by turkeys, hams, lemon meringue pies, and it was such a source of pride. And when Mama Briggs would cook and Mommy, they would tell my sister and me about the roles that Black cooks played during slavery
Mm.
and how that kitchen and food was actually a form of rebellion because they were able to talk more freely than they were around other people. And every dish was made with love.
Oh, yes.
And to hear the stories of some of these Black cooks and butlers and how their talent was constantly just streaming from them, wanting to share it because they knew that was their freedom. That gave people the love that they were unable to show physically.
Mm-hmm.
So growing up with a woman who actually was a domestic as a cook for white and Jewish people, we learned so much about the history of culinary development amongst Black people. And that's just a generation away from me.
Yes.
So, when you hear these stories, they aren't so far in the past. In fact, my little niece said to me one day, she calls me Tutu. Tutu, now, you were born after Abraham Lincoln, right?
That's cute.
So I said, yes, I was.
That's like when I go to schools and kids would ask Harriet Tubman, I be in Harriet Tubman, and they said, did you know Martin Luther King Jr.? Two different times. But that's
Yeah,
beautiful. I just love that history and the fact that those women were living in their purpose of what they could do with love. I'm all about love in actions. And they put that
mhm,
love into their cooking and they shared that, the wisdom that they could pass along in the conversations. I love that.
absolutely.
Yeah.
And they also taught me a lot about forgiveness
Mm,
because that was part of their strength, you know. And I got that forgiveness from my grandfather too, burning his house down, just the inhumane acts that have been perpetrated against us as a race. But my knowledge personally of my
mhm.
grandparents and my parents, um, they taught me to forgive.
Yes.
And when we get to the book, there's a small part I want to read about how I've carried that forgiveness aspect throughout my life.
Okay, so let's start with you now. Your
Well,
background
I
is
was
beautiful.
I was a very sickly child. I was born um, with only 7 months gestation period,
Mm,
so I came into the world as a very small preemie. But once again, I had an unbelievably strong mother. My father was a professor down at Paul Quinn, a historically Black college university in Waco, Texas. And my sister, my only sibling, my sister Vicky, and Mommy rode a bus up to Denver in early July, instead of staying down in Waco with my dad because Mommy said, I think this baby's going to come early and I can't chance having her at a segregated hospital.
Mm.
The black hospitals didn't have the same kind of equipment, the level of sanitation, the funding, I mean, everything that frightened my mother enough to say, George, my dad's name, I have to get back to Denver and have the baby where I had Vicky, my older sister, St. Luke's Hospital. I can't take a chance in these segregated black hospitals
Mm-hmm.
because I just don't feel good about it. So Daddy agreed that he would finish the year out and then come to Denver with Vicky and Mommy. Now my grandfather, Big Daddy, was waiting um, at the bus depot for Mommy and Vicky, and they got off, and it was great. But I was born within the week
Oh, wow.
of when Mommy got there, and they put me in an incubator room, and Mommy was out, getting sun, trying to heal at a hospital where the other women there were white.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but I survived. I survived. And Big Daddy had to leave to go up to Wyoming. He always played the Cheyenne, Wyoming rodeo. And when he came in, everyone knew he had had a new grandbaby. So he got on the microphone and said, Yes, I just drove up from Denver, and I'm proud to tell you the baby has the fixtures of mom and I don't know, something of dad to let everyone know he had a little girl.
Okay.
Yeah. So the illness stayed with me. I spent, I think, off and on 9 years or 10 years of my early life in hospitals.
Mm.
Pneumonia, bronchitis. One time when I got to go home, I had even a more severe accident. Those were the days where they had vaporizers that were heavy, heavy glass, and that you'd fill them up with water, camphor oil to help the breathing
Yes.
of a sick child. I got up to go to the bathroom and I tripped over the cord of the vaporizer.
Mm-hmm.
Hot oil
Oh, no.
splashed all over my right leg.
Oh, gosh.
I was rushed to the hospital, and you could see the fluid was building up. They drain it, the fluid would come back. And finally, about the third day, I heard the doctor tell Mommy there was just no choice. They were going to have to amputate.
Mm-hmm.
And my parents and grandparents, cousins, aunts, uncles, we had a prayer group. And the prayer group got together, and whether it was a miracle of medicine or a miracle of prayer and faith, or if it was both, my leg healed and I've kept it.
Oh, beautiful.
Unbelievable.
You are a
But
miracle child yourself. Yes,
right?
you are.
But I was behind in everything at school because when I went, you, I usually was sick and I couldn't do other things that kids could do. There were these rings that were on a playground, and you would go from one ring to the other, and you had to swing yourself around.
Right. I remember
And
that.
and one day, and I'd stay after school because Daddy was a teacher at the school at that point, so he always stayed a little later. So that gave me more time to practice on the physical stuff I couldn't do, like these rings and
Right.
climbing ropes. And one day, I guess another teacher that stayed late watched me fall in the dirt so many times trying to do those rings that she said to Daddy, "Come on, you have to call her in here. She can't just keep falling in the dirt. I mean, look at her. It's all over her." And Daddy said, "I know my child. She will get around those rings. She has never given up on anything." Daddy was right. It took me 5 more months, but I got around those rings
Hmm.
and I climbed to the top of that rope.
Hmm.
But I was terrified to come down. So Daddy had to get a ladder and climb up. It was like, if I got up here, I'm not letting go. So
That's
I was not athletic, but
uh-huh.
but I was always more scholarly and a social animal as well as a political animal. In second grade, I got voted to be president of the student body.
Ah.
And the principal told Daddy to tell me that I could be vice principal, vice student government representative, but they had to put the sixth grade boy as the president because I was simply too young.
Mm-hmm.
So Daddy broke that to me. And the first thing I said to him, "Daddy, was it because I'm a girl?" And he said, "Trudy, babe, no way. No, you're just too young right now to have that responsibility in second grade." And he said, "Let me tell you something. Don't believe anything people say that is going to make you feel less than. You can do everything as well or better than boys can do. Your age should not be a factor in what performance you would give or how you would handle a difficult situation. So don't allow anyone to say you can't do something because you've proven just by the fact that you're here that you can beat the odds."
Right, right, right.
And
Beautiful.
coming from your daddy
Yes.
is, the world just opens up. It's
Yes.
like, wow, he really sees me. He knows me, and that was one of those moving periods in my life.
That was very moving. Beautiful. Yes, beautiful. I mean, it's the
Well, I went on, and I was always in student council throughout junior high and high school. By the time I got to undergrad, I got elected as a student body representative, even at a university that had, maybe 150 or less than 100 Black students, and there were 17,000
wow.
students that attended Colorado State University. And not only being a student body elected official, I was elected the first Black homecoming queen that Colorado State University had.
Wow. You are just a first. From birth to first.
Yes,
Beautiful.
yes, but for me it had nothing to do with beauty, like people always think a homecoming queen is about. This was the time, we're looking at 69, 70. Martin Luther King had been assassinated, Bobby Kennedy, well, of course, his brother JFK, Malcolm X. I was into politics, and I saw so many of my friends getting arrested for acts that they should not have been doing in so-called support of the movement. Prior to all of that, I was debating as to whether I was going to go into medicine or law. But by the time I got to CSU and got so involved in protesting, leading protests, medicine was out, law was in.
So you
Yeah.
had thought about being a doctor at one time? You said,
Yes. Yeah. I had done
as a
some
doctor?
pre-med. Yes. I had done some pre-med, but I knew that I needed to use the Constitution as a sword and a shield. Protect those who simply could not protect themselves and did not have a voice or even know how to begin to protect themselves.
Right.
So that juncture of time, coming in to womanhood, young womanhood, at the same time as the civil rights movement was taking it, the Black Panthers, the women were burning their bras. I mean, all of that. It was a pivotal moment in my life. And I had been a supporter of Malcolm X. I liked his philosophy until I read Dr. King's letters from the Birmingham jail. And I understood what Dr. King was saying about the nonviolence participation, and reminded me of what my grandmother, Mommy's mother, used to say to me, Mama Briggs, because I was a fighter. I used to fight. When I was at school. I would fight. But she told me, Trudy Michelle, learn to use your head, not your fist, because your head is much stronger than anything your body is ever going to be able to put out.
True.
So those words kept coming to me. And that's when I knew I have to use the brain that the good Lord gave me to fight injustice and fight for equality. So I went off to law school. First time I left Colorado, I went east to Washington, D.C., George Washington University. I hated law school.
Oh, really?
I was convinced from day one I was too stupid. I had no talent. I don't know how I had the intellect to get out of kindergarten. You know, it was just a nightmare. And to add salt in the wound, I was sitting outside GW one day, and this big limousine pulls up, and David Eisenhower gets out of the car. Now, he lived at the White House because he was married to Richard Nixon's daughter, and Richard Nixon was president. This to kind of give you an idea of the kind of kids that went to the law school that I was in.
Okay, yes.
They were kids that were 3, 4 generations of lawyers in their family. They discussed law over dinner.
Right.
And here I am coming from the West, where everyone thought I was a cowgirl, and the only questions I got was, "Do you know how to ride a horse?"
Uh-huh.
It's it was it was quite a challenge, and I must say, I graduated from law school solely by the grace of God.
But
He
that's
had
all you
a
need.
purpose for me.
That's
That
all you need
is.
is the grace of God.
Well, as time went on, I I worked in Denver, and I started a political organization which got the attention of some of the state political people. And by 1981, Ronald Reagan was sworn in as the President of the United States. At that point, I was asked to come to Washington um, to work at HUD, the Housing and Urban Development Department, where I was an assistant secretary for policy and budget. I was there a while, and then I got another notice to come back home to head up Health and Human Services for Region 8, which was Colorado, South Dakota, North Dakota, Wyoming, and I don't remember all the states, but it was 8 states. So
Hmm.
I headed that up, and it was good to be home for a while. But most of my friends were still in Washington, and I had been there so long as an adult with law school and the friendships that I made before and after that I really wanted to go back. I had a luncheon with a friend, Holly Coors, who was the Joe Coors and Holly were the ones that were the owners of Coors Brewery that's
Oh.
based in Golden, Colorado.
Hmm.
So I was having lunch with Holly one day, and she was good friends with Nancy Reagan. And she said to me, "Well, what do you want to do next?" I said, "I don't know. I kind of want to get back to Washington, but I'm not sure in what capacity." I said, "I've been at HUD, I've been at Health and Human Services. I don't know, maybe the White House." And we just left it there and didn't, say anything else about it. Less than a week later, I get a call from the White House to come for an interview. So I got my stuff together, and I knew Washington was just unbearably hot and sticky in July. So I, got a linen suit and everything. And as I walked from the hotel to the White House, I started having these moments of self doubt and fear approach me like, oh no, this is the Reagan White House, and I'm walking over here by myself. I got to the gate, and my nerves were just taking over. And I was sure my name wasn't on the entry list. In fact, in my mind, I saw myself being thrown to the ground and them doing a full body cavity search. So,
Yeah, that's what in your mind.
so I got through that part. They let me in the gate, and I had to walk down some steps. And Carol, my footfalls sounded like my feet were about a size 15. I could hear every step. And then they put me in this waiting room, and I sat in one of the chairs, and everything was so old, I sunk down in the chair.
Hmm.
And then it dawned on me, this is probably some historic furniture or something. But for me, I said, I'm not going to be able to get out of this chair. Let me just stand up. so, so the guard or someone came and got me. I still didn't know where I was going and who I was meeting with, but he took me to a woman's office named Faith Whittlesey. And she said hello and was just nervous, moving things on her desk. And she she didn't really ask me anything. She didn't even look up. She was so preoccupied that, I was like, well, maybe I just need to leave. Suddenly she pops up and says, come on, we need to hurry up. And at that point, I knew I was getting thrown out. And I was so glad I had bought those walking shoes to walk back to the hotel.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, and I'm looking through all the windows, and the offices were incredibly small. I said, how do people work in these little bitty offices? But I could see the grounds from the other side of the window, and the grounds were beautiful. The next thing I know, she stops at these two doors and walks away. So I'm looking to see what's going on with her. And the next thing I know, I turn around and Ronald Reagan is standing at his fireplace looking at me. And I I just I was frozen. I just stood there and I looked around and I saw the Resolute desk and the three windows behind and the blue and gold rug and the chairs, the Queen Anne chairs that were in some kind of damask fabric. It was understated elegance.
Mm.
But I still couldn't move. But he walked over to me and said, come in, have a seat. And his size threw me. He was much bigger than I had imagined. And I
Mm-hmm.
can't say, in all honesty, I ever imagined anything about Ronald Reagan. So this whole thing was surreal to me. He
Right.
had he had a brown suit on, kind of a eggshell shirt, and so I went and sat down. And he sat across from me, and his legs were up much higher than mine because he was taller. And all I could think was, I hope he doesn't have on white socks. You know, these thoughts.
You are a great storyteller, and you put the humor in there. We can listen to you all day. So keep going.
Well, he didn't have on white socks, and um, I declined jelly beans that he had everywhere. But when I left, I just stood on the bricks of the building, and I knew that I had had an extraordinary moment in an ordinary day.
Mm-hmm.
I went back to the hotel and called my parents. Mommy was upstairs in the kitchen. Daddy was downstairs watching a game with a beer. And he did as usual. Hi, Trudy, babe. Is everything okay? Yeah, Daddy, but okay, bye. Clank, the phone goes down. That's my conversation with Daddy. And I start to, Mommy, get Daddy back. I just met with Ronald Reagan in the White House. I want to tell you all about it. So Mommy starts, George, pick up the phone, pick up the phone. Marjuno, I can't hear on that phone. So they went back and forth as usual, and
Uh-huh.
I'm about dozing off listening to the regular. So so they got Daddy on the phone, and I told them what about the meeting. And at one point, Carol, I just had to stop and feel their joy and pride.
Yes, I'm
You
sure.
know, they it came through the phone over 1,600 miles. It was
Mm.
that palpable.
Yes.
And then Daddy asked me, "What are you going to do?" And I said, "I don't know." They haven't told me that much,
Uh-huh.
and which they hadn't, but I did start shortly after that. And I talk about this in my book. I didn't, it took them forever to get me a pass so I could come in without having to be scrutinized by Secret Service every single day. And I didn't have a secretary.
What was your
So
position?
I became the associate director of the White House Office of Public Liaison and director of the President's 50 States Project. That looked at discriminatory language and laws and regulations and statutes in state laws.
Mm.
It was what was labeled the threat, or I don't know if threat's right, but people hated it because it was opposite of the Equal Rights Amendment.
Mm.
Reagan wanted the states to heal all that discriminatory language, which I found mostly it was against women, of course, in insurance, which is another whole thing because I wrote a report on it. But I was to travel to the 50 states. In a year and a few months, I got to 38 states. Um, I had some really harsh times. One was in Salt Lake City, Utah. And at that point, blacks were not allowed to be in the priesthood. It was the Mormon church. And interestingly enough, BYU, Brigham Young University, was the university I had started all the protests against when they played Colorado State University when
Mm.
I was in undergraduate school. So now here it is years later, and I'm back in Salt Lake City, Utah, the place I protested, and the cab driver drops me off at what was supposed to be the governor's mansion, who was hosting a reception in my honor. Now, I had my Sunday go to meeting clothes on, my heels, and I'm around all these fine manicured mansions and just, but I'm looking and there were so few lights on. So I start walking up to some of these mansions, looking in windows to see where are the people. It never dawned on me that I'm a black girl in Utah dressed up looking in white folks' mansions windows.
Right.
So, so finally, about three mansions down, um, a man came to the door and I explained what had happened. He said, "Come on in. We have to get to the bottom of this." Well, I called the White House, and meanwhile, he had called the local police and everything. They found the cab driver who referred to me using the N word, and he was fired on the spot.
Mm.
Yeah. But it was a terrifying experience, but it gave me a chance to meet some more of the movers and shakers that were in the Senate and in the House of Representatives, because everyone converged when they found out I was the highest ranked black woman in the White House. And
Wow.
and I'm left in Salt Lake City, Utah, Mormon country, with a cab driver who called me the N word.
Mm-hmm.
It couldn't they couldn't let that out.
Yeah, right.
That was beyond the pale.
Right.
But I have several experiences like that. one, I did want to share about the idea of forgiveness.
Yes, thank you. I was going to ask you. So are these stories in your book?
Some of them,
Mm-hmm.
the one about Utah is.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
but a lot of the stuff about me growing up, no, I don't think. I think the editor cut some of that out, but
Okay. Well, we have a bonus here to find out that
oh yeah,
backstory.
yeah.
That's great. So
But
tell us what you want to
but
share.
can I tell you this one part?
Oh, please do.
Read this one part. I'll do it quickly.
No, take your time.
Where I had it marked. Okay. Now I'm in the White House. Let me set the scene. And by the way, in each of my chapters, I start with a quote from a woman, and this happens to be chapter 15. It's titled Equality or Not. In the quote, the emotional, sexual, and psychological stereotyping of females begins when the doctor says, "It's a girl." Shirley Chisholm,
Mm,
who became a mentor of mine when I was selected to be a host for the Congressional Black Caucus at the end of September every year when I was still in Washington. So
mm-hmm.
Mrs. C, as I called her, was a very dear friend. But anyway, let me start. At a Republican luncheon in 1983, where women were dressed in their finery, a woman stood up and threw a tomato at me. She didn't like my speech supporting the 50 States initiative instead of the Equal Rights Amendment. The ERA aimed at inscribing gender equality in the Constitution. Well, I was so glad I was wearing a red suit. The police were called. They asked if I wanted the woman arrested, and I said yes. At the end of my speech, the police asked, did I want to press charges? I declined. I didn't want the woman to suffer. Maybe it would be more instructive to learn that you don't attack the messenger bringing news of a policy you disagree with. Perhaps you would learn to be more open minded. I thought forgiveness was the way to go. The police released her, and the woman wrote me a letter of regret and apology. The letter included, quote, as a woman, I know what you go through as a Black woman, end quote. Until that sentence, I believed the episode was solely about policy. But no, it's always about race. In essence, she said, my racial oppression is no different from her gender oppression, so she can't be racist or sexist. I saw another dichotomy. Would she have felt comfortable throwing a projectile at a white woman representing policies she didn't like? Maybe, maybe not. Okay.
Right.
But that tells you, even when we take the high road
Yes.
and we remember the lessons our forebears taught us and we live those lessons,
Yes.
you're still taken advantage of.
Yes.
And that's one thing I want and hope I made very clear in my book. By any standards, I have surpassed men, women, white, black, whatever, to break barriers in the White House, then in the Senate, as the first woman and the first Black officer of the United States Senate. Then in the third branch of government, the judiciary, as the chief trainer of law clerks and judges. Judges don't just come to Washington because they know how to be judges. Someone has to show them and teach them what being a judge means.
Mm-hmm.
You have an entire staff you're responsible for. When you were in private practice, that wasn't the case. There are employment laws that are in place. And by the way, I explain in my book, I put the laws for the third branch of government into effect.
Wow.
The judiciary was not covered. They exempted themselves from employment laws.
Mm.
It has been a battle.
I just can imagine what you had to go through to be in those positions where they had to listen to you.
Right. When I went to the Senate, there were officers who had been there 35 years. They had never probably seen a Black woman. And then I'm their boss.
Yeah. See, I told you were a miracle baby.
Yeah,
You
I must
you
have
were meant
been.
to be here. Yes, definitely, definitely.
And can you imagine the egos of these federal judges, or soon to be? At least they were nominated and recently confirmed, but they had to go through this process.
Mm-hmm.
When I walked into the room, mouths would drop first because probably because I was Black first, and then a female. I never know which order it is in.
You probably
And
got it
then,
right there.
right, and then I I was attractive. So
Uh-huh.
that means I must have been stupid.
Mm.
Black female pretty? Oh
Mm.
no.
Mm-hmm.
What is she gonna tell us?
Mm-hmm.
So I spent the first 20 minutes, and I know this because I started timing how long it took me to get their attention. But for 20 minutes, they would throw hardball legal questions at me, administrative nuances. What they didn't know is that was my strong suit.
Mm.
They came at me with my strong suit, my brain.
All right.
If they had come any other way, they could have won the game that they made up and they were playing.
Mm-hmm.
But they made the biggest mistake that has been made about me all my life. They underestimated me.
Right. And Trudy was not having it.
Oh no. Oh no.
Oh no. Tell us more about your book because we want people to go out and buy it. Winning the Battle Against Myself. Now you got a very unique cover. Tell me a little bit about the cover.
What they did and what I wanted them to do, they took a photo of my face,
Mm.
and I wanted what I've lived to show on my face.
Okay.
I wanted the cracks that were inevitable, the tears that are in white coming down,
Okay.
the faraway look of loss and sadness, but pride.
Mm. Okay.
The ripping away, and of course I had to do it in gold, Karol.
Mm.
You
Okay.
know, if you could rip me up, use some gold. Don't be just using any old color. but
Yeah.
the ripping away we can just rip her continually until she falls.
Mm,
That's what the cover is about. It's about sadness. It's about pain, but it's also about never giving up.
in
And
triumph. Yes.
and it took me a long time to even get that right because it's an attention getting cover.
Yes, it is.
Yes. And and I wanted to make sure everyone knew this was about a black woman's journey.
Yes.
It's and that it has been.
Yes, it has. And it's been a powerful story to share. And I'm so happy that we were able to talk and share your story here. And because, I'm talking to women who have lived stories of challenges and overcome them, and to have this story to tell that can be inspiring and needs to be told so our younger people
Yes.
can see again the shoulders. You stood on your grandfather's shoulders and your parents' shoulders. Now we children are standing on yours because your story is so unique. I'm waiting for the movie to come out. And 'cause it's such a it's just like I just saw documentary on did you see Sarah's Oil? Have you seen Sarah's Oil?
Yes.
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 Those are
Yes.
stories we don't know about. And but you're in a modern time of a
See?
black woman
Right.
having to deal with this political environment and the prejudices. And you're living today, right now.
Right. Exactly. And that's what's so important. You know, I have I had to realize my truth because as you're going through all of this, you have to have moral guidance that is embedded in your soul.
Mm-hmm.
But you don't have a chance to categorize everything because it's happening so fast. But I hope that realizing my truth can help other young black girls realize theirs
Yes.
and accept it. And one of the keys is to surround yourself with people who share your values. And when you're young, you know, that's difficult. I understand. I mean, I was young once, and sometimes the flash of all of it can overtake you. I remember I was in school so long because I stopped at law school, but later I went to Michigan and I got a master's in political science and a PhD in philosophy. And I
Mm,
was 40 years old.
mm.
You never stop learning.
Right.
And you surround yourself with people who support you and let you be who you truly are.
Yes. That's the key. To be your
Hmm.
unique, yourself. That's who we came to be, your unique self, with the gifts that you brought with you. And you brought some beautiful ones.
Well, one thing is, I don't know if it will always be true, but I knew with the judges, they had to have degrees, a bachelor's and a law degree. But in order to get their attention, I had to have more degrees than the white men.
Mm-hmm.
I have four
Mm-hmm.
bachelor's,
Mm-hmm.
law, master's, and PhDs. That alone got their attention that wait, she isn't just the pretty brown girl.
Mm-hmm.
She may actually know something.
Right.
But that's a battle that I don't see ending anytime in the near future.
You're
But
right.
we have a challenge as Black women. We have to get our Black boys out of high school.
Yes.
We can't start trying to build a pool of law clerks because that's a stepping stone to being a judge. If you can't get them out of high school, then you got to get them into undergraduate, out of undergraduate, into a professional school. But if we can't get our sons out of high school, look at how many generations we are losing.
That's so true. And you bring up that the theme and now is get on board the new Underground Railroad, my most recent book. It's all about doing exactly what you're saying, sharing your stories and encouraging and helping our young people, lift them up, tell them that they can do it, inspiring them, giving them the tools that they need and the support financially, spiritually,
Right.
prayerfully, all the
Mhm.
ways that we can support them, because we've got to do it, because there's
Yes.
still, it's like today they're trying to bring all those challenges that you had in the 70s
Mhm.
back in front of us now.
Yes, exactly. And there's not a day that goes by when I don't weep and sob inside
Mm,
because of this. I even asked the good Lord, why did you have me break all these barriers and take the trauma that you saved me from by letting me live as a sickly girl? What, to have them everything torn down with the signing of a pen
mm,
on an executive order,
mm-hmm,
or what it took to be able to get our kids in schools, just trying to even a playing field. And the first thing you hear is everyone disband diversity, inclusion, equity, just erase it. What about the purpose? If I'm asking this, and I'm not being disrespectful, Lord, but my heart breaks. And you can bet Harriet Tubman's heart's breaking, and Shirley Chisholm's heart's breaking. Ida B. Wells. You know, we forged this. They did it with blood, and I did it a different way. But that's just a matter of time.
mm-hmm,
We're all there together.
right.
And when you see what is happening at record speed,
Mm-hmm,
we have to do something.
we
And
do.
that is one of the powerful reasons I wrote this book.
I was going to say that you went through all you did so that you could write this book and share this story. You're one of the voices that's going to help bring the information to our young people, and they need to hear it. And I'm so happy that we were able to share it on this podcast. And I'm sure you're going to be on many more. And but the people to get the book and actually read it and share it with our young people and share with us, our age group too, because I'm all about collecting the stories like
Yes,
yours
yes.
so that they
Mm-hmm.
can be shared and be the inspiration to see that it doesn't stop. We have to keep on going.
Mm-hmm.
The challenges aren't going away, but
Oh,
we
no.
have to keep on going.
Yes,
We can do that in a
absolutely.
unified way. There's no stopping us. I mean, Harriet Tubman had to go through slavery and all that was there, but they got through it. And then using Shirley Chisholm, she was the first black
Mhm.
congressman. Was she the first
Yes,
woman congressman too? The first,
yes.
yeah,
And the Congressional Black Caucus, which she formed, would not support her bid for president.
right.
okay, this is, you formed this organization, and when you need them most,
Mm-hmm.
they turn their back on her.
Mm-hmm. And that's why I'm bringing women in our age group together because we've lived it and we know
Yes,
that we can
yes,
get through this and we know we have to depend on each other to make it happen. And we will do it.
exactly,
We will do it.
exactly.
Yeah. Well,
Well,
Trudy, this has been
well,
so
well,
beautiful.
in closing, so in my book, I just wanted to hear this because
Okay.
this is my little black niece. One day, my great niece Zoe said to me, "Tutu, you used to be president, and now you take orders from a 5-year-old." Out of the mouth of babes.
That's beautiful.
That's the same baby girl that asked me if I knew Abraham Lincoln.
Right, right. Well,
Right?
she, she is
You
blessed
see?
to be your niece
Right.
because you're going to be training her up.
Yes, right.
She's on you to
She
stand on
telling
those
me.
shoulders, and you're going to be training her up. She may be
Yeah, she didn't.
president, but
Yeah,
she may be
yeah.
president one day.
Right, right. She didn't understand all this, but she put it together like, okay, she has something to do with the president. But
Yes.
now you're with me, we're coloring. This is what we do.
And you know what? That's so beautiful that you are a part of her life and she connected with you because she could one day
Yeah,
go to the next step, the next level that you
that's right.
set the playing field for her to do that. So thank
Mhm.
you. Thank you
Well,
for
thank
keeping
you
on.
for doing this, Carol. Your
Oh,
importance is the one. Your your path is truly as a ceiling breaker, a black woman who has managed to even be a part of the media. You just think of that. We
yeah.
You remember the days. Well, you probably don't, but I remember the days vividly when we would see somebody black on TV.
I mean, we're in
And
the same age group, remember? I definitely
oh,
remember.
that's right. And you run and yell, tell everybody come on down and call
Uh-huh.
your friends and say, look, there's there's a show on, and so and so. And when the Supremes came on at the Ed Sullivan show,
Right.
and they were dressed.
Yes.
Woo! They were so elegant. I mean, the kids don't even get that.
No, they don't. They
They
don't.
they can't understand the joy
Right,
it
right.
was for us.
Yes, it was. It was. Beautiful. Beautiful. Well, this has been a wonderful conversation. I'm not going to close you off too soon. Anything else you want to leave us with? And we're definitely going to be showing people the book and encouraging people to purchase it and read it and share the stories and your story. Anything else you'd like to leave us with?
Oh, just my total admiration and praise for you, Carol.
Oh, thank you.
You are doing God's work. That's the only way I can put it. And thank you so much.
You are
God
so
bless you.
welcome. Thank you. Thank God bless you. I thank you for being here. And as you go on with the rest of your day, remember, love in actions is choosing love in everything you do. And if this spoke to your heart, I invite you to subscribe to Substack and stay connected with our community. That's Gigi United by Love on Substack. Until next time, choose love. Hi, I like to remind you about Tuesday Talk. And this coming week is very special. Talk to someone who knew Reverend Martin Luther King Jr. and marched and got in the trenches during the civil rights movement. That is Mrs. Ruth Perot. She has a beautiful story that you definitely want to be able to listen to and ask questions so you can learn more about what it was really like back in the 60s and 70s when people had to literally lie in a ditch to keep from having a school torn down.
Oh, her name is Ruth Turner Perot. I'm 85 years young, and I had the privilege of serving on the front lines of the civil rights movement in the 1960s. That was truly a life-changing experience for me, and I learned lessons that I have carried through the rest of my life. Some of those lessons I was able to use in building a health empowerment movement that gave tools to our brothers and sisters to help them take charge of their health and stand tall when they enter the healthcare system. So I know these lessons work. I also know that given where we are now, facing truly perilous times, that these are lessons that can help us face what we're dealing with.
Quite a story you want to hear. So join me Tuesday Talk, 6 p.m. Pacific Time on Zoom. And this one is open to everyone. It's a special event, so anyone with the link can come in and join us.